It's time to face the music. It's time for me to take a look at what my reading has looked like for the first half of the year. Whether or not I'm doing well, we shall see. I'm not even sure at this point. We'll find out as we go. Hello, my lovely friend, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am going to be doing the mid-year freakout tags. Yes, you heard that right. I am doing 2 different mid-year freakout tags. I have quite a few contenders for best book of the year, so why not talk about 2 favorite books instead of just 1. The first question on the OG tag is, what is the best book you have read so far this year? For this one, I'm going to say Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This is a little novella by Fonda Lee that I need an entire fleshed out series for this world, because just the little glimpse that we got of this small short story following this rooker was enough for me to go, I need everything. This is like a magical animal companion book, but like a really realistic look at what it would be like to have these creatures that were originally wild and then you bring in because they can help you with a specific problem. And in this world, the specific problem is manticores. They kind of menace people, and our main character lost her mother and her brother to one of these. She's got a lot of survivor's guilt in regards to that, and so she felt like the best way for her to redeem the fact that she didn't die was to become one of these rookers and to hunt down manticores. Like, her whole being is being a rooker, someone who handles these rocks. They're like the giant birds rocks, not like the stones you throw. That's her whole world, and I loved the way that this focused not just on the bond between her and her rock, but also the bond between her and the other handlers. And it's not perfect. There are some messy things there, but it also, like, at the end of the day, really showcases like how humans come together in tragedy. Our second question is the best sequel that I have read so far this year. I haven't read a lot of sequels this year, but even if I had, I would be saying Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. That's all I've got for you. So much that I cannot talk to you about in this book. This whole series just changes your life. That's what it does. This is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw, which I loved back in 2021, 2022. One of those. You're gonna see a lot of Stephen Graham Jones on this list just because, like, he is, well, we'll get to it, but this is following Jade Daniels, and we meet her in the first book when she is a teenager about to graduate high school, or, well, she's kind of been kicked out, so she is not getting her diploma. She has been failed through senior year. She's a little bit of an outsider. She's a little bit of an outcast. Part of that is because she is one of the few indigenous people in her town of Proof-Brock. The other part is that she is dealing with some stuff, and her way of dealing with that stuff was to become obsessed with slasher movies. That is the lens that she sees the world through. That is how she processes things. That's how she makes connections. She also feels like they prepare her for the eventual slasher that she truly believes Proof-Brock is going to become. There's a lot going on in this one little town, and it is like some stuff that's just some stuff. Okay, there's only so much I can explain without super spoiling things because there's just so much. I will say this series has heavy trigger warnings for body horror. I mean, we have people missing parts of their face here. It also has trigger warnings for discussion of SA. I don't think there's ever anything that is shown on page, but it is described. Certain characters do describe things that happen to them. I don't think that My Heart is a Chainsaw has any trigger warnings for animal cruelty, but this does have some weird stuff that happens with animals. It's just weird. Like animal body horror. Absolutely adored this series. I love the way that, I absolutely adored this series. I love the way that Stephen Graham Jones kind of centers it around each novel around a different horror trope, and he doesn't make it feel like you really need to have engaged with the media that he is pulling from to still understand what's going on in the story. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to? I'm gonna say Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. You guys know I love A Darker Shade of Magic and that whole series. Like, it was my life. I adore Lila Bard and Kel, and just like I am the original Lila Bard Defense Squad, because people don't get her. Okay? They just don't understand her the way that I do. This is the beginning of a sequel series for the Darker Shades of Magic, and we're following Kel and Lila from what I understand of the characters from the first series, but we're also following a new host of characters. I have no idea what it's about beyond that. I know the world it's in, I know some of the characters that it involves, and because I love them, I don't need any more information. Question number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release of the year? This is there are 3 goddesses involved. I think it's the Wrath of the Triple Goddesses. That's the second book in the kind of like wrap-up trilogy that Rick Riordan is doing for Percy. Like, it's technically Percy Jackson and the Olympians #7. I kind of view the original series as a thing, and then this is its own separate, like, trilogy type thing, even though they're part of the same series. Like, that's kind of how I view it, and I absolutely, like, if you want to see how reading the most recent one, The Chalice of the Gods, went, I will have it linked up top. I had such a time with that book. It was perfect. It was everything that I needed. I like Rick Riordan, heard people saying, like, I would read my favorite characters going grocery shopping and, like, just to devour that, and he said, I gotcha. Question number 5 is, what is the biggest disappointment for the year? Without a doubt, that is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by an author I don't remember, please hold. Brianne Randall. I just, like, there is a vlog where I talk about my issues with this book, but really, my biggest issue was just that it didn't know what it wanted to be. It did not know if it wanted to be a lighthearted rom-com. It didn't know if it wanted to be a serious family drama. There just was so many tonal inconsistencies, and I just kept getting frustrated with our main character and a lot of the stuff that she was doing. By the time we were about halfway through the book, I was honestly like, you know what, I feel like the love interest should just stay with the girlfriend he's currently with. He wasn't better off. Like, there were things happening on that end that, sorry, my God, I mean, he did end up with the better option, but not by much. I just couldn't get behind the main couple. The only reason that I read it was because of the family drama, and then I got very frustrated by how that was resolved. I just got annoyed by that. The whole thing, just, it doesn't, whatever. I didn't understand the point of most of it. There were some places where it was funny, there were some really heartfelt family moments, there was some stuff about it that I liked, but, like, at the end of the day, like, that stuff just could not make up for the things that continually frustrated and bothered me about this book. Question number 6 is, what was your biggest surprise? And I am going to say Roleplaying by Kathy Yardley. This is a book that I picked up on my Kindle. Like, there was a thing you could get free Kindle books because you had it. Like, they were doing a promotion and it was free. And so I grabbed it because it looked very interesting, because it's about 2 older protagonists falling in love through a video game. It's getting some Dungeons and Dragons vibes, that kind of nerdy culture, like Baldur's Gate 3. That kind of thing. And so I was like, this sounds interesting. This sounds like I'll enjoy it. And then it took over my life. Like, I started this book and I had things that I had been looking forward to doing for a very long time. And I was like, nah, this is it. This is the only thing that matters. It took me over. I have convinced everyone that I know to read it. This is the new Little Thieves. If you guys remember last year when we did Amazing Readathon and I convinced everyone to read Little Thieves, this was the book that I did this year. It's a beautiful, slow burn romance. It's got a little bit of family drama and stuff. Like, there are some things that happen there. Like, these 2 people are both dealing with their own separate things, but also building a relationship and getting to know each other. And oh, here's the thing. This is the funniest thing about this book, is they meet online through this gaming guild. Because of the way she talks about herself, he thinks she's 80. And because of the fact that she found his group through, like, a college group, like a college friend's kid, she thinks he's in his early 20s, and so she's like, yeah, this is just like a kid. I, like, feel very protective and I'm gonna take care of him. And then they find out that they're almost the same age. I really loved how they kind of handled her finding out how old he is, because it is a situation that could be very scary for women, and he very much was, like, not offended at all by that. He was like, okay, hey, it's cool, what do we need to do to make you feel safer? I had no idea that, like, this would, no, I was clueless. I will warn you, there is quite a bit of biphobia towards the end of this book because of how one of the characters is treated, like how their family treats the fact that they are bi. Like, that is in there, so just go into it warned with that. There's also some very toxic family dynamics between our male main character and his mother, and that, yeah. Question number 7 is, who is your favorite author? And this might seem like a little bit of a cheating answer, but, like, if you can't decide an author is a favorite author until you've read and loved multiple works, I think it counts, because it's my video and I can say it counts, and that is going to be Stephen Graham Jones. I just, like, absolutely loved his Angel of Indian Lake trilogy, and then I read The Only Good Indians earlier this year and had my world just wrecked. If you're going to start with Stephen Graham Jones, from what I have read so far, I would say start with My Heart is a Chainsaw, because I think that one, there are specific trigger warnings in The Only Good Indian, specifically in regards to pet death, and it is a pretty gruesome pet death at that I think there are people that just, for that reason alone, need to steer clear. However, he knows how to write a book. I do not understand how this man gets female rage the way he gets it. The way he was able to write Jade as a main character, like, if more men wrote women like that and were able to like really put themselves in the mind of their character, and we would have a lot fewer people going, you can tell this was written by men. Because for me at least, there was nowhere in those books where I was like, yeah, you can tell this was written by men. Like, he had to have female relatives and friends that he was like, hey, so in this situation, what do you think our character, like, I feel like he had some sensitivity readers there. I just, like, he is a new favorite, new auto by author. I want to read everything that he has written at this point. Just fantastic author. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush, and we don't come by those very often on this channel. Like, the last one, like, the last new one that we had was James Holden from the Expanse series, and I finished that series last year. Yeah, we're nobody. No one. Number 9 is newest favorite character, and you guys may have heard me talk about this child before. If you watched my Reading Swifty Authors vlog, you will know about this character. It is Casey from the Shadow Sister. She has done nothing wrong in her life ever. She's definitely done some wrong things in her life, but she's done nothing wrong in her life ever, and I would go to war for her. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. It is a firmly established fact on this channel that I do not cry over fictional things. However, I decided that instead of just copping out with a non-answer like I usually do, we're gonna give you the book that would have made me cry if I was a person that cried when I read books. That book is going to be The Shadow Sister by Lily Mead. This is just that ending. It was so perfect. It was amazing. Like, Lily, I don't know how you do, Lily, what? I read this book because Lily is a friend, and I was very intrigued by this concept, because what we're doing is we're following Casey, and her older sister Sutton has gone missing. She's been missing for about a week, and the thing is that, like, Casey doesn't have a great relationship with Sutton. Like, they have been butting heads for quite a bit of time right now. There's been some stuff that, like, Sutton's done that just was... She's a child, she's 17, she's 16, whatever it was. Like, sometimes you do those types of things as a child, and you don't really think about the fact that it's a terrible thing to do to someone, or how manipulative it is. But I was seeing red. I was just so angry on Casey's behalf. And Casey, like, wasn't perfect, but I also didn't feel like we saw anything quite to the level that Sutton did to her. A lot of this is written based on Lily's own experience. We've had a couple of conversations about that. She also has a fantastic author's note at the end. I highly suggest reading that because it puts so much of the, like, the book doesn't need the author's note to be good, but it just adds this extra level of perspective when you sit down and you read it. I think if you're looking for a spooky YA, like, very soft, like, it's not soft, because you get some weird. Also, Sutton comes back, by the way. I forgot that part. Like, they're searching for her, and then they find her, but she comes back and she's a little bit different. That's an important thing for you to know. Like, it's not just about her dealing with the fact that her sister has gone missing. It's the fact that her sister goes missing and then comes back wrong. I just really appreciated this. If you're looking for a kind of like a YA spooky book that deals with familial issues and also deals with, like, the resilience of family, definitely read this one. Question number 11 is, what is a book that made you happy? Which I feel like book 10 and book 11 are both books that made me happy. Like, you can cry because you're happy about a book. You don't always, like, it doesn't mean the book is sad. The book that made me, like, that came to mind when I thought of a book that made me happy, and this is one that I just recently read, is Miss Percy's Travel Guide to the Welsh Moors and Dragons and Feral Dragons. Miss Percy's Travel Guide to the Welsh Moors and Feral Dragons by Quimby Olsen. I love this series so much! I read Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons last year as part of the Spiffbo project that I did, where I read 6 of the books that were semi-finalists and, like, debated whether or not, I didn't get to all of them, I just didn't have time, but I debated whether or not, like, I thought the ones that won should win, gave my opinion on it. This one, I put the first book down, and I was like, I need the next book yesterday. I need the next book desperately. It comes out next month. I'm so excited for, like, the conclusion of the series. This is very much written in the style of a Jane Austen novel, if that makes sense. Like, we've really, like, there is a specific type of cheeky narrator that came out of the 1800s that I kind of miss sometimes, and that is what we are dealing with here. We're following Mildred Percy. She inherited a few things from her uncle when he dies at the very beginning of the book. This is an uncle that she didn't know well, but he was like, hey, here, here are some things. And like, it's a bunch of really weird, eclectic stuff and this weird stone. And then it turns out that that stone is a dragon egg, and the dragon hatches, and the rest of the series is her, like, dealing with the aftermath of this creature that should not exist suddenly existing. This is another one that has an older protagonist. I believe she is 38 based on what I remember from this book, and so it's a romance with an older gentleman, and it's just such a cute little like it's not a meet cute. He meets, like, their romance begins when he offers to help her drag a trunk through her sister's yard. It's the funniest thing I've ever read. I love that scene. It brought me, like, I knew I was gonna love the book when that scene happened. Please, if you're interested at all, please read it. This is a fantastic little indie fantasy series, and I cannot wait for book 3. Question number 12 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I'm gonna put the phone down because I need both hands to show you guys this. And it's going to be, oh my god. Ah. Look at this. Look at these edges. Look at them. It's the Illumicrate editions of the Percy Jackson series, because I don't own enough copies of this, like, it's not like I have covers from some completely other that are waiting for books to be put on. These are gorgeous. Like, hold on, I'm not going to show you all of them, but if you want to see all of them, then there's an unboxing where I unboxed this. But I will show you the Lightning Thief, which yellow was a choice for the Lightning Thief. That's so, like, I'm so intrigued by why they chose the things they chose. Anyways, but, like, the cover is gorgeous. Like, they're gorgeous. I'm not sure what I did to mine, because most of the ones that I've seen do not have that up here. But, like, you take that off, and you've got these fantastic end papers. Like, you got Auntie M's Emporium here. And then you've got, I believe it is the, yeah, it's Olympus there. But then, look at how shiny. You've got these fantastic covers, and each one is, like, personalized, or not personalized, is specific to the book. Like, it's all kind of in this motif, but, like, they change some of the details, so it's specific to things that happen in the book. And I love it. I love them so much. I do not have room for them yet, but we're gonna make room. Question number 13 is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? Like, I have plans, but I don't have to read those books if I don't want to. So we're going to talk about 3 books that have been on my shelves. I'm like, it's time to get them off my shelves. It's time for that to happen. First off, I would like to make some progress in the Murderbot series, so I need to read Network Effect by Martha Wells. I have been loving the series. I love the novellas. They're just so perfectly paced. You get the exact amount. They're just so perfectly paced. They're great for when you need a palate cleanser. They are so like emotional and funny, and all of these just great, fantastic things. Great for people who are just getting into sci-fi because they're short and there's not a lot of technical jargon that you have to deal with, at least at the beginning, and so you can kind of get warmed up. I'm very interested in how we're going to if we're going to start resolving some of the stuff that's happened in the first 4 novellas, if that's, I think that's part of why we have such a thick one right now. I mean, it's not really that thick. It's only like 350 pages on the dot. Book number 2, The Adventures of Amalia El-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This has been on my TBR since it came out, and it sounds like a really interesting book, and it's a high seas adventure with pirates and, like, an older protagonist, and I'm really digging books that are, like, that are adventurers that are not in their, like, early to mid 20s, like, they're actually adults who have lived some. I especially love this idea that they're having of these adventurers that have retired and are being drawn back into adventuring for whatever reason. And then the final one, because I keep promising this video, but I need to, like, actually do it, but I need to read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. There are a whole bunch of complicated things going on with this book, and why it's taken me so long to get to it, and why I'm reading it now when I wasn't planning on ever reading it before. So we're not gonna get into that. That's for the vlog when I read this for the first time, but I just, like, I need to do this project so I can decide whether I'm keeping it or letting it go. So that is it for the OG mid-year freakout tag, but let's go and do the revamped mid-year freakout tag, starting from the top, which also, Jessie wants to know, what's the best book you've read so far this year? Now, a normal person would probably just combine the questions that were similar, but I wanted to talk about more than one best book of my year. The next one I'm going to talk about is The Only Good Indians. This is one that, like, a great disservice was done when it was released, because I think it got a lot of bad rap because it went to reviewers that were not Indigenous and were not going to understand the significance of what Stephen Graham Jones was writing about. You need to have at least some basic history of how Indigenous peoples, especially in the Midwest, were treated to entirely get what is going on. And like not just history, but like culture. And I think that if you do not understand that, you are not going to get the point of this novel. This is one that there are going to be people that are going to dislike some of the plot choices that Stephen Graham Jones made, especially there in the middle. And I will be honest with you, I was a little skeptical when some of that stuff happened. And then we got to the end and I realized what was happening. I realized what he was doing. And I realized the point that he was trying to make blew my mind. Everything fell into place and I was like, oh my god. Like that fight, like, I mean, it ends and everything falls into place. It's one of the best written things I have ever read. There are other books that are probably a better place to start to see if you like Stephen Graham Jones's writing style, because this is one of the more intense ones when it comes to trigger warnings. In addition to like the gruesome pet death, there is a lot of animal horror. There's violence against women. This book is about 4 men and the repercussions of a choice they made on a hunting trip. That is the main thing. It is a novel about nature taking revenge for something that happened. And so that's what I'm gonna leave you with. Jesse also wants to know, what is your most disappointing read of the year so far? In this case, I'm gonna go with one that was disappointing purely personally to me as someone who thought I was going to love the book based on what I knew about it. But there was something specific that happened in the book that just made it not a me book. However, it is still really well written, and if you're like into Peter Pan retellings, I definitely, especially if you're looking for something darker, I definitely would check this one out, because I think that there are a lot of people who are going to like this and are going to enjoy it and are going to get what the author was going for and like why. I'm not someone who likes those types of books. And I will be fully honest, if I had known that this was going to happen at the end of the book, that the author was going to do this, I would not have read the book, because I would have known it was not a book for me. But that is Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew. I'm currently reading The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew and absolutely adoring it. Like, I know that I like her writing style. It is beautiful. It's evocative. She is very descriptive in the things that she does. She really likes to just build a very eerie atmosphere, and she really outdoes herself in this book. I thought this was going to be a 5-star for me, and it wasn't. This is a book for the catharsis girlies. This is a book for the girlies that want to sob their eyes out. This is a book for the girlies who love tragedy. Like, that's who this is for. It's not for me. There's a reason my favorite Shakespeare plays are Shakespeare's comedies. I still highly recommend this book to a lot of people, but it's not for me, and I was a little disappointed that it wasn't. I wanted it to be so badly. Question number 3 is, what's the best book recommendation that you have received this year? I'm gonna say Roleplaying by Kathy Yardley. Probably would have taken me much longer to get to it if it had not been for the Amazing Readathon and it being a host fave and like getting UGRC and all of that good stuff. So I'm very glad that I picked it up and listened to that recommendation. Question number 4 was, what was your first DNF of the year? Listen, I know it's a problem, but I don't really DNF things on this channel. I'm also really good about like choosing books that I think I'm going to like for the most part. So, like, I very rarely feel the need to DNF, and usually, if I do feel the need to DNF, there is a reason why I can't. Which is really frustrating, but it just doesn't happen, unfortunately, for me sometimes. Question number 5 is a new release from this year that you've read, and your thoughts on it, good or bad. So, the new release that we're going to talk about is the only new release that I have read so far this year. Like, I'm really bad about keeping up with new releases, guys. Like, with the exception of, like, a certain few authors, one of which is the author of this book, I just don't keep up with them all that much. But, it's going to be Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. What the fuck, my dude? I mean that in the best way possible, but like, what? I knew it, though. I knew it. I was right. I was right. And that's all I'm gonna tell you. That's what, if you've read it, you get it. If you haven't read it, you're not gonna get it, and you're just gonna have to read it to find out. Question number 6 is a book that came out in the first half of the year that you want to read, and a book coming out in the second half of the year that you're anticipating. Hold on, do I have it? For the book that came out in the first half of the year, it is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Fazell. This involves vampires. That's all I know about it. It's a girl that runs a tea shop, and there are vampires involved, and it's like an underground, like there's some underground stuff going on, and it sounds like, I think there might be a heist involved. Watch my TBR. I talk a little bit more about it in there. I don't entirely, oh, there's revenge involved, though. Ooh, the first book in a hotly anticipated fantasy duology teeming with romance and revenge. I just know that I loved We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, and so like I really am excited to see what Hafsa Fazell is going to do with this kind of new setting. It feels like it's a very Dickensian setting, so I'm interested to see what she's going to do with that. And then for a book that coming out in the latter half of the year, we're going to go to my second most anticipated release of the year, and that is The Whispering Night by Susan Dennard. I Loved the Luminaries. If I can find the video where I read it and like talk about it the first time, I will link it down below in the description box or in the card or wherever I can fit it. But I loved that book. I really enjoy, like, it's this very cool, like, Gilmore Girls meets Buffy kind of setting almost, where we've got our main character and the entire job of her and her people is to guard this place in the woods where magic has arisen and keep the nightmares from getting out of it. We're dealing with a main character that's trying to make her way back into this society after her family has kind of basically been exiled from it. I love it. We went places in the last book that just made me so happy, and I can't wait to see how things are going to end. Also, I love, again, I was right about this, and I love being right about things. I'm that person that tries to figure out what's going to happen in a book as early as humanly possible because I want to be right at the end. Question number 7 is, what is the most beautiful book you've added to your collection or a beautiful book you'd like to own? We're going to do 2 books that I recently, like, I haven't gotten them this year, but I got them within the last year since I did this tag. But, like, they are my favorite things I've ever gotten at this point. Ta-da! Y'all thought you were going to get through this video without me actually talking about Little Thieves, didn't you? I have both of the Illumicrate editions of Little Thieves, and they have these, like, gorgeous, like, covers with the sprayed edges, and then here is my favorite part. Look at this. This is amazing. It's just so, I love them. I love them. So I got this one, had to hunt for it, and a very kind person last year in the Amazing Readathon was like, hey, I have this. If you're wanting this because you collect them, like, I know you're going to love it, so you can have it. So I also have Painted Devils, which is, look at that, they're so cute. I can't. And then you got that, and we've got that. They're so perfect. I love them. Just having them brings me such joy, and I cannot wait to get the final book when Holy Terrors comes out. I'm very excited for when Holy Terrors comes out. Question number 8 is, what genre have you read the most from this year? It's fantasy. It's always fantasy. Every single time, it's fantasy. It's a lot closer this year than it has been in previous years, but it's fantasy. So, like, you guys already knew the answer to that. Question number 9 is, do you feel your reading tastes have changed or shifted at all this year? A new genre you love, a new favorite trope, or a new favorite theme? Not really. I feel like I'm continuing to work on working in things that I discovered that I've liked in the last couple of years. One of those things is horror. I found that there are horror books that I really genuinely enjoy, and so I'm trying to work some more of that in. And I'm also, the other thing I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to pull in stuff that I know I love, I just don't get to as often. I'm trying not read less fantasy, but read more of the other genres that I love, because I know that a lot of the time, like, I get caught up in certain things and then I just don't read as much. Like, for example, like, one of my goals this year is to read more sci-fi. I don't read as much sci-fi as I would like. Part of that is because of the way the market works with sci-fi and the fact that it's kind of like a niche genre at this point. Like, there's a whole thing there that we're not going to get into on this video because that's not the point of this video, but, like, that's been my goal this year. Question number 10 is, if you set any bookish goals for yourself this year, how are they going? Well, let's check it out. I'm doing pretty good, actually. This is the one year that I don't need the Read Your Scramble. It's amazing. Goals for this year. I wanted to read 100 books. I am currently on book number 78. I read 15 books in June. We're slowing things down a little bit. I wanted to get caught up on 6 series. So far, we are on 5. Or not caught up, but I want to make progress on 6 series, and so far I have made progress on 5. I wanted to read 24 books for my physical TBR. Not doing as well with that one. I'm not as far ahead as I am with some of the other goals, but I'm still at 12, which is half of the goal. I have half of the rest of the year to read 12 more books. I also wanted to read 20 science fiction, as we mentioned. I am currently on number 11, so I'm into the second half of that. I also wanted to read 6 nonfiction. I read 3 nonfiction in February and haven't touched a single one since. So we need to be working on that one. And then my final goal is to read at least 50 books by BIPOC authors. I am currently on 35. I'm actually very happy with where I am with my goals. I think this is the best I have been ever in the history of my booktube. Like, I've had times where I was super ahead on the reading 100 books in a year, because that's the challenge that I've done for, like, at least 10 years at this point. And I had a year that I read 120. I don't know how that happened. Like, I wasn't even trying. I just got to the end of the year and I was like, oh, I've already read 100 books. Let's up the goal. Like, sometime in October or November. Question number 11. What format have you been gravitating towards this year? I don't know what's going on, but, like, ebooks have felt like a really good idea these last couple of months. I do a lot of audiobooks, like there's a lot of those that happen because I love a good audiobook, and like I like having a book that I can read while also doing other things. I enjoy that. I like having a book to listen to while I'm crafting. A lot of the time I'll do that instead of watching a TV show or a movie. Although I do also do a lot of TV shows and movies, so there's well, TV shows, not really movies. I've been like just rewatching some of my favorite TV shows. Ebooks are starting to sound really nice, especially because I'm going to be doing some traveling these next couple of months, so I think that sounds like a good idea. And then the final question is, question number 12. Finally, a book you've read so far this year that you feel embodies the vibe of your reading year. I'm gonna go with Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. If you haven't read the book, you're not gonna get like what's going on, but like this is partly just like how like the stuff that's going on with how I'm reading, but also like just how real life is affecting my reading and all of that stuff. So that's what I'm going with. It's a really weird, odd one, and I can't really explain it too much without getting into spoilers for the book or for Annihilation, but if you've read it, you can probably guess where I am going, especially if you've been following US politics and those kinds of things. All right, that is it. I know I am like the last person in the world that ever does this tag, but I refuse to do the Mid-Year Scramble tag until I have made it to the end of June, because sometimes I read books that, this year I read books that would not have been on this list if I had not been able to include June. So that's my justification. If you are interested in the tea on my most disappointing books of the year, I will have the 2 vlogs that I did for them right up here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you like the vibes on this channel, the subscribe button is right down there. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! I just realized that I have not turned my fan off, and I hope you can't hear it, but if you can, I make no apologies, because it is Florida, and it's simply too hot to exist here without a fan on. So, just sorry.